Have you ever wondered why some connections feel explosive and unforgettable, yet leave you drained, while others feel steady, clear, and strangely liberating? Jung would say the difference isn't luck, it's whether your unconscious recognizes a partner who supports your individuation rather than your projections. The love of your life is not the one who completes you, it's the one who calls you into wholeness. 4 signs reveal this, and the first is simple to describe but rare to experience: your nervous system calms down around them. You don't orbit their attention like a satellite begging for signal. You breathe easier. Decisions feel clearer. In Jungian terms, the ego is not overrun by the shadow's fears or the anima/animus's fantasies. In Stoic terms, your judgments become sober because you aren't fighting reality, you're seeing it. If you notice that conversations with this person end in more focus rather than confusion, you're meeting a dynamic that supports growth rather than drama. The challenge here is limerence, intense infatuation that masquerades as destiny. Limerence floods you with urgency, checking your phone, decoding every pause, bargaining with your self-worth. That's not love, it's an anxious attachment seeking relief. To work with this, try a 2-step reset. First, use the Stoic dichotomy of control, write 2 columns, up to me, and not up to me. Place their replies, timing, and moods in the second column, place your boundaries, breathing, and focus in the first. Second, regulate your body before you interpret any signal. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6, repeat for 2 minutes. Then journal, what outcome am I trying to control right now? What part of me fears being ignored? You'll notice that the panic eases when you anchor in what is actually yours to govern. A second sign emerges as the projection field thins: you no longer need them to be a savior, a fantasy, or a parent. You see a human being with strengths and limits, and you choose them anyway. In Jung's language, your anima or animus is returning to you. Instead of using the other person as a screen for your unlived qualities, you start integrating those qualities yourself: creativity, assertiveness, discipline, tenderness. This shift is quiet but profound. She begins initiating personal goals without waiting for his approval. He stops performing charm as a shield and starts practicing honesty even when it risks disapproval. Together, they stop bargaining for validation and start exchanging reality. That is how love grows, through 2 differentiated people meeting in truth. The challenge is idealization, your inner romantic archetype writing a script the other person can't play. Idealization feels uplifting and then punishes ordinary behavior. To counter this, use active imagination in writing. For 10 minutes, dialogue with the part of you that needs them to be perfect. Ask, what are you protecting me from, and what quality am I refusing to develop in myself? End by listing 3 traits you admire in them and 1 concrete way you will practice each trait this week without involving them. This returns energy to you and reduces pressure on the relationship. You're not shrinking love, you're strengthening it by removing fantasy's grip. A third marker is respect for pace, including sexual pacing. Healthy love doesn't push you to secure closeness through intensity, it invites you to build closeness through alignment. Abstinence, whether complete for a time or simply a deliberate slowdown, becomes a tool, not a punishment. You discover whether compatibility thrives without the anesthesia of constant stimulation. Jung would call this a test of ego strength, the Stoics would call it training desire. If this is the love of your life, pacing clarifies rather than kills the connection. You feel more free, not more trapped. You too can talk about boundaries without it turning into a power struggle. Attraction is still present, but it's guided rather than chaotic. The challenge is fear of solitude, rushing intimacy to silence and inner emptiness. Many women, and men, collapse boundaries because silence feels threatening. To reset, commit to a 7-day abstinence window, no sexual contact, and limit romantic texting after 9 p.m., replace it with a nightly reflection: what did I learn about myself today when desire wasn't in the driver's seat? And a morning practice, 5 minutes of mindful body scanning, noticing tension without judgment. If you still feel connected, seen, and respected after a week of deliberate pace, you're not mistaking intensity for intimacy, you're building trust. A fourth sign is mutual individuation. You both become more fully yourselves, not copies of each other or caretakers of each other's insecurity. In practice, this looks like coordinated independence. You protect your work, friendships, and purpose, and they do the same. The relationship becomes a base camp for growth, not a hiding place from life. In Jungian terms, the relationship serves the self, your central organizing principle, rather than your defenses. In Stoic terms, you orient toward virtue, courage to speak truth, justice in how you treat each other, temperance in your impulses, wisdom in your choices. When this is present, conflicts stop being trials of loyalty and become opportunities for skill. You argue to understand, not to win. You repair quickly because dignity matters more than victory. The challenge is fusion, the slow erosion of identity that feels like closeness but breeds resentment. To prevent fusion, schedule a weekly solitude practice of at least 90 minutes where you pursue something that nourishes you without contact. Afterward, note 3 insights in your journal. What energized me? Where did I say yes but meant no this week? What boundary needs reinforcement? Share one insight with your partner in calm language. Here's what helps me show up better. Healthy love welcomes this because it wants the real you. Calm is not the absence of feeling, it is the presence of choice. Many confuse a regulated body with a numbed one. In trauma, the freeze response can masquerade as serenity, and a woman may think, "I'm so peaceful with him," when in reality her system has gone offline to avoid conflict. In a healthy bond, calm coexists with aliveness, curiosity, humor, spontaneous ideas. He can surprise you without tipping you into vigilance. She can set a boundary without bracing for punishment. To separate peace from shutdown, give yourself a baseline check on 3 ordinary days: energy after spending time together, appetite, and sleep. If you consistently feel clearer and more resourced, calm is real. If you feel foggy, small, or apologetic for existing, you might be dissociating. To address this, practice a 5-minute body scan after each date, naming sensations in neutral language, and write a single sentence: "Right now I feel," because, if you discover signs of shutdown, pause escalation for 1 week and focus on co-regulation activities like daylight walks and silent reading together. Calm that returns with safety practices is trustworthy, calm that requires self-erasure is not. When projection lifts, reality can feel plain at first. Without fantasy, you might worry that love is too ordinary. In Jungian terms, a woman previously fused with the animus often experiences an inner critic or a push for intensity, leading her to test a good partner with unnecessary drama. A man distorted by anima projection might demand constant reassurance that mirrors his ideal image. The antidote is conscious reownership of disowned qualities. If you find yourself judging them for traits you secretly need: discipline, spontaneity, tenderness, name that directly in your journal and design a micro-practice. If you crave their initiative, schedule 1 personal initiative per day, however small, like initiating a difficult email or planning your own workout. If you crave their tenderness, give yourself 5 minutes of deliberate warmth daily, placing a hand over your chest and saying one validating phrase you wish they'd say. Also, implement a projection checkpoint in conversations. Before you accuse, ask, "What did you actually say?" and reflect back their words verbatim. This slows the archetypal script and restores the human dialogue. Pacing will continue to test both of you. A partner who respects pacing shows their character under frustration. They don't weaponize silence. They don't punish you for protecting your body. They don't equate sex with proof. If pressure appears, treat it as data. You are not obligated to negotiate your boundaries down. Try a clear script that keeps dignity on both sides. "I want attraction to support us, not rush us. I'm choosing to go slower for the next 2 weeks. If you can stay close while we learn each other, we'll both know this is real." Pair that with the 24-hour boundary review. Any time you feel pushed, wait a full day before responding, then answer in daylight with a regulated breath. If you initiate the slowdown, ensure you also initiate connection in other ways, shared activities, open-ended questions, and reliable check-ins, so the pace serves intimacy, not avoidance. Mutual individuation reveals itself in how each person meets challenge. In a growth-serving bond, both partners hold themselves to their highest standard without demanding perfection from the other. She admits when she was snappy and repairs without shame. He owns a missed promise and shows how he will keep it next time. Codependent rescuing declines because each person refuses to trade integrity for temporary harmony. To strengthen this, conduct a weekly virtue review framed in Stoic terms. Ask yourself, where did I practice courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom with this person? Choose one area to improve next week with a tiny behavioral target, such as pausing 3 seconds before speaking in conflict, or stating one appreciation daily. If you notice you are doing the other person's emotional homework, explaining, prompting, defending, step back with a simple line, I believe you can handle this, and I'm here if you ask for help. This affirms their agency while protecting your energy. Jealousy is another crucible. In insecure bonds, jealousy becomes surveillance and testing. In secure bonds, it becomes information about values and needs. Jung might call jealousy a shadow messenger. It points to unlived power or unmet standards. Before you interrogate them, examine your own locus of control. Use a Stoic premeditation of triggers, imagine seeing a like, a comment, or a delay, and rehearse choosing your response rather than chasing reassurance. Then have a values dialogue at a neutral time with 3 clear points: what exclusivity means to you, what transparency looks like, and what consequences follow repeated boundary breaks. Afterward, set a 30-day review date to evaluate behavior, not promises. If they align with agreed standards without resentment, jealousy fades into trust. If they argue the standards themselves, you have your answer. Communication patterns tell the truth about psychological safety. In a growth-aligned pair, both prioritize repair over righteousness. You'll notice fewer character attacks and more curiosity about impact. In a defensive pair, conflict circles around who is right, and the scoreboard replaces empathy. To shift toward repair, adopt the 90-10 rule in difficult talks. Spend 90 seconds describing the impact of the event in concrete terms: what happened, how you felt, what you need, then stop and invite their view. After they speak, reflect one sentence you understood before offering solutions. If either of you escalates into contempt or stonewalling, call a reset with a precise plan: 10 minutes apart, drink water, step outside, return with one need and one offer each. Practicing this 3 times turns repair from theory into muscle memory. Finally, watch how both of you relate to purpose. Love that serves individuation enlarges your life mission. You don't abandon your studies, your craft, or your friendships to maintain the bond, you refine them. He doesn't resent your focus, he respects it. She doesn't compete with your devotion, she wants you awake to it. If you notice purpose shrinking, ask 2 questions: what did I stop doing to keep the peace? And, what would it look like to resume it this week in a small way? Then schedule one protected block of time and keep it. Share the results proudly. A partner who is good for your life will celebrate the return of your fire because they see your wholeness as the foundation of the relationship. Trust reveals itself in small disappointments handled well. Anyone can sound devoted on a good day. Character shows up when plans fall through, when you say no, when you bring an uncomfortable truth. If this bond is right for your life, both of you can metabolize letdowns without theatrics. You feel allowed to be human, not perfect. The challenge is future faking, grand promises that feel like certainty but never arrive. It hooks the nervous system because it soothes fear in the short term while delaying reality testing. To counter this, switch from listening to timelines to tracking lag time. Measure the days between a promise and a behavior 3 times in a row. If the lag shrinks and you see quiet consistency, trust is warranted. If the lag widens or explanations multiply, reset your expectations and renegotiate terms. As a practice, keep a simple consistency ledger for 30 days with 3 columns: what was promised, what happened, what you felt, and make decisions from data rather than hope. Repair is the real love language. In secure dynamics, repair is fast, specific, and owned by both sides. In insecure dynamics, repair is delayed, vague, or performed to avoid consequences. The challenge is looping arguments that recycle the same wound and end with distance. To shift, adopt a two-step repair ritual. First, use a 90-second impact statement. Describe the behavior you observed, the effect it had, and one specific request. Second, invite their perspective and reflect back one sentence you understood before proposing solutions. Practice this when the stakes are low so you have it when it matters. If either of you enters contempt or stonewalling, take a timed 10-minute reset and return with one need and one offer. Consistency with this ritual turns safety from a theory into a habit. Trauma bonds can feel like chemistry because the nervous system confuses volatility with aliveness. The highs are intoxicating, the lows are devastating, the cycle itself becomes the glue. The challenge is intermittent reinforcement, unpredictable attention that trains you to cling harder. You may tell yourself the intensity proves love when it only proves activation. To break the loop, run a 30-day intermittency audit, record 3 variables after each interaction: attention level, your emotional state, and the next contact. Patterns will surface. Pair this with a stabilization routine for 14 days, consistent bedtimes, protein at breakfast, daylight walks, and a fixed check-in time with the partner. If steadiness improves the connection and reduces anxiety, you're likely moving towards secure attachment. If steadiness makes the bond collapse, you are sustaining the relationship with adrenaline. Projection doesn't vanish, it gets managed. The shadow finds ways to make the other wrong for what you refuse to see in yourself. Superiority, envy, and control are common forms. The challenge is righteous certainty, believing your interpretation is the truth rather than a perspective colored by old wounds. To address this, use shadow sentence stems in writing. What I cannot stand in you is, followed by, the part of me that resembles this is, then design a corrective action that builds the skill you demand. If you accuse them of avoidance, schedule one avoided task today and complete it. If you resent their need for praise, give yourself measured acknowledgement for real efforts. This pulls projection back into integration and reduces the need to manage the other person. The anima/animus dynamic shows up in daily logistics. Many women outsource structure, direction, and financial boundaries to a partner. Many men outsource tenderness, emotional language, and relational attunement. The challenge is dependency disguised as romance. You may feel taken care of while slowly losing capacity. To rebalance, pick one opposite quality practice for 14 days. If you've relied on his planning, set and execute your own weekly structure with time blocks for work, rest, and friends. If you've relied on her emotional leadership, track feelings 3 times a day with a basic label and share one specific appreciation without prompting. From a Jungian view, you are reclaiming inner opposite sex energy. From a practical view, you are becoming a better partner because you bring more of yourself to the table. Pacing around intimacy remains a reliable diagnostic. A partner aligned with your growth respects a clarity protocol. The challenge is the subtle pressure to prove closeness physically before psychological safety is established. Implement a 14-day protocol with clear rules: no sexual contact, no late-night escalation, yes to quality time, yes to honest questions, yes to shared activities that show character. During the period, ask yourself nightly, do I feel more grounded after our time together, and, did we learn something new about each other? At the end, debrief with direct questions. What did you discover about me? About yourself? Where do our values align and where do they strain? If answers are concrete and calm, you likely have compatibility worth investing in. Self-worth is the ceiling of intimacy. When worth depends on pleasing, you will trade boundaries for access and call it devotion. The challenge is fawning, preemptively smoothing everything so you don't risk loss. To reverse this, adopt the 2-yes rule: only commit when your body and your mind both agree. If your body says no and your mind is negotiating, pause and say, I'll confirm tomorrow. Pair this with a weekly non-negotiable, one activity that protects your dignity, like gym time, therapy, or focus study, scheduled and kept without apology. Each act is a deposit in self-respect, which becomes visible in your tone and choices. Perspective shrinks crises. The Stoic view from above helps you right-size reactions. The challenge is making today's friction a permanent verdict. Once a week, practice a 2-minute mental zoom out. Imagine your life from a higher vantage, your city, your decade, your mortality, and ask, what matters most here? What's within my control today? Then pick one action aligned with virtue and let the rest go. This steadies the mind so love can be chosen, not chased. Decision-making becomes cleaner when the foundation is solid. You notice that choices about weekends, budgets, and boundaries stop spiraling into debate because both of you consult the same inner compass. When anxiety is high, overthinking can disguise itself as prudence and you start polling friends, scrolling for advice, or waiting for a sign. The challenge is confusion fueled by attachment fear, worrying that one wrong move will lose the relationship. To steady this, keep a decision journal for 14 days. For each dilemma, write your top value at stake, the smallest next action under your control, and a brief premeditation of loss, in Seneca's style, what's the realistic worst case and how you would cope. Then act within 24 hours on the smallest step. She finds that choosing a study night over a last-minute date strengthens respect. He learns that clarifying a boundary at work reduces spillover stress at home. Choices simplify when values lead. Honesty about history is another measure of health. In secure dynamics, disclosures are timely and proportionate. You don't need the full archive on day one, but you aren't surprised by critical facts months in. The challenge is compartmentalization, omitting relevant truths to preserve approval. This often comes from shame complexes that teach people to hide until they feel safe. To work with this, use a truth triad before important conversations: name the fact, name the feeling about the fact, and describe the plan going forward. You might say, I was divorced, I feel uneasy sharing this because it mattered to me, and here's what I learned and how I protect stability now. If you're the listener, respond with one sentence of acknowledgement before asking questions. This keeps dignity intact and builds a culture where accuracy is valued over image. Money and time reveal values under pressure. In mature love, generosity is balanced by sustainability. You don't keep score, but you do keep clarity. The challenge is twofold: early financial entanglement disguised as romance and scarcity thinking that turns every bill into a power struggle. If gifts arrive with expectation, or budgets are handled without transparency, resentment grows. To reset, propose a simple framework for 90 days. Each person keeps a clear baseline budget, sets a monthly discretionary amount they can gift without discussion, and schedules a weekly 15-minute money check-in. Close the meeting with a statement of purpose: how spending aligns with shared goals. If either partner resists even brief transparency, take that as data rather than proof of love. Family of origin patterns are the hidden currents in many couples. A woman with a strong mother complex may overfunction and then resent. A man with a father wound may alternate between withdrawal and sudden control. The challenge is triangulation, pulling the relationship into unresolved family roles. To see this, draw a simple genogram with roles, alliances, and repeated conflicts. Then set a boundary principle between you: issues are handled within the couple before extended family becomes involved. Practice a neutral script when pressure arises: we will discuss this together and get back to you. If one partner fears disloyalty, acknowledge the loyalty impulse and define a new task that honors the family without surrendering the couple's sovereignty, like specific visiting rhythms or shared holidays chosen in advance. Dreams can be practical tools rather than mystic riddles. Jung saw dreams as messages from the unconscious trying to balance the psyche. During periods of abstinence or slowed intimacy, dreams often intensify because there is more psychic energy available. The challenge is reading dreams as prophecies about the partner rather than signals about yourself. A simple practice prevents this: record the dream upon waking and treat each figure as a part of you. If you dream of a neglectful man, ask where you are neglecting your own needs. If you dream of a pursuing woman, ask where your drive needs direction. Use 10 minutes of active imagination on one image, writing a dialogue until a practical step emerges. Then take that step within 24 hours. This keeps the focus on integration, which ironically makes you a better partner. Anger and assertion are diagnostic. In secure bonds, a no is received as information, not defiance. In insecure bonds, no triggers punishment, sulking, or a charm offensive designed to reverse your stance. The challenge is retaliation that teaches you to self-censor. Train both sides with a no drill for 1 week. Once per day, each of you says no to a small request and the other reflects back the boundary in one sentence, thanks them for the clarity, and proposes an alternative time or option. It sounds simple, but this rehearsal rewires fear and normalizes autonomy. If refusal consistently creates chaos, that's not sensitivity, it's control. Growth rarely happens at the same speed. One person may discover therapy, coaching, or a new discipline and move quickly, the other may need time to catch up. The challenge is covert envy masquerading as critique, or pressure to slow down to keep harmony. Institute a growth contract for 60 days. Each of you chooses one development goal with a weekly micro-target and commits to supporting the other's goal without managing it. Set a bi-weekly debrief to share progress and frustrations. If your partner undermines your progress or frames your focus as abandonment, name it and hold your course. Mutual individuation means neither person has to dim to be loved. Stress testing reveals truths that dates can't. Travel delays, an illness, or a demanding week shows how someone treats time, service, and emotion when comfort drops. The challenge is performative care that fades after the crisis. Run a light simulation, agree that one of you will have a packed 48 hours while the other supports with small tasks, meals, logistics, check-ins. Debrief after. Did service feel voluntary or resentful? Were emotions weaponized or regulated? Use what you learned to refine agreements. Real partnership survives inconvenience because its core is choice, not spectacle. Freedom inside the bond is the clearest proof you are on the right path. You can spend a weekend alone without panic. You can say, "I need space tonight," and the response is understanding, not withdrawal of affection. The challenge is abandonment fear that turns simple separations into evidence of rejection. When that fear rises, you may overmessage, over-explain, or preemptively agree to plans you don't want. To retrain this pattern, run a 3-part reset for 2 weeks. First, plan one intentional evening apart each week with a start and end time you both honor. Second, use a 5-minute view from above before the separation, picture tomorrow's you, calm and grounded, and name one task you'll complete while apart. Third, after reconnection, each of you shares one sentence of appreciation and one small observation about how the time helped. Repetition teaches your nervous system that distance can be safe and useful. Desire is healthy, compulsion is not. You should feel attraction and want closeness, but you should not feel pulled to break your own standards to keep it. The challenge is value slippage, agreeing to exceptions that quietly become the rule. To hold the line, build a simple values filter and apply it to every major choice for 30 days. Does this action align with my top 3 values? Will it be good for both of us in 6 months? Would I advise a friend to do the same? If any answer is no, delay by 24 hours and revisit in daylight. Pair this with a short abstinence interval anytime confusion returns, 7 days of deliberate slowdown, no sexual contact, and a daily check-in question: what did I learn about us today without relying on intensity? If clarity grows, you're on track. If anxiety demands speed, you have data to discuss. Digital habits expose character. Transparency is not surveillance, and privacy is not secrecy. The challenge is covert comparisons and digital ambiguity, likes, late-night chats, vague boundaries with exes. To convert this into strength, co-create a digital integrity agreement that fits your lives. Keep it practical, no flirty private threads with former partners, no disappearing message apps for romantic conversations, and no device used during the first hour together at night. Review the agreement in 2 weeks and adjust. If pushback appears, stay calm and name your standard. I'm building a life where words and behaviors match. These are my terms for safety. Alignment with clear agreements deepens trust. Resistance to clarity tells the truth faster than any promise. Rituals keep love steady when energy dips. You won't always be inspiring, witty, or perfectly regulated. The challenge is drift, weeks where you become logistics partners and lose emotional contact. Counter this with a weekly 90-minute connection block. Start with a 10-minute gratitude exchange, 3 specifics each, move into a 40-minute open conversation about stressors and needs, and end with a 40-minute shared activity that is not a screen. If conflict appears, use your repair ritual rather than postponing. Protect this block like you would a key meeting. When life gets busy, anchors matter more, not less. Accountability is the quiet backbone of lasting bonds. Apologies without change damage credibility. Silence after rupture breeds resentment. The challenge is soft promises that feel soothing and go nowhere. Create a repair ledger you both can use without drama. After any misstep, write the event, its impact, and the corrective action with a date. Revisit in 7 days for a 2-minute check. No lectures, no scripts, just measure action. Over time you'll see a profile of reliability emerge. If one person refuses the ledger or treats it as punishment, you have discovered a limit you cannot fix for them. Self-respect keeps the edges of the relationship clean. Your boundaries should not depend on their mood. The challenge is fawning, solving problems before they're asked, shrinking opinions to keep the peace, or offering access you don't want to give. Use the 2 yes rule every day. Your body and your mind both must agree before you commit. If they don't, buy time with, I'll confirm tomorrow. Add a standing weekly appointment with yourself, therapy, training, study, spiritual practice, that you keep without negotiation. Each kept promise to yourself raises the floor of what you accept. When disagreements escalate, the goal is not victory, it is understanding and forward motion. The challenge is scorekeeping and global statements, you always, you never, that erase nuance. Keep a conflict container for one topic at a time. Set a 30-minute limit. Each person gets 2 rounds, impact, request, and 1 offer. End by scheduling a small experiment for the week and a check-in date. If contempt appears, pause immediately. Contempt means you are outside the container and need regulation, not more words. Returning to structure is not rigid, it's respectful. Use dreams and symbols as feedback on your own balance, not as verdicts on your partner. Write the dream on waking, then ask, what part of me is this? Take one small action the dream suggests in your own life within 24 hours. This keeps you from outsourcing your development to the relationship and keeps the bond from carrying projections it cannot hold. Finally, let abstinence remain a tool you can choose whenever you need deeper clarity. Slow the physical, increase the transparent, and watch what remains. Love that supports individuation will grow stronger under clean limits because it is built on shared reality, not on stimulus. You will notice that choices feel deliberate, your voice has weight, and your peace is not for sale. This is emotional freedom, the capacity to be fully yourself with another person, to give without losing center, to receive without debt. It is self-sovereignty, the right to set your path and invite someone to walk it with you. It is inner peace, the quiet confidence that you can end or continue a relationship based on truth, not fear.